Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today for a deep dive into the aPower S with Franklin Whole Home. Just a few quick items before we get started. During the webinar, all attendees will be muted for best audio quality. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. This will be monitored by myself and Stephanie today. It's my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, David Tobin. David's a product manager at Franklin Whole Home, overseeing product operations across Canada and the central US. Based in Houston, Texas, he specializes in chemical engineering focused on utilities and renewable energy. Welcome, David. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Amber. So today we're going to be going over our aPower S as part of the Franklin portfolio of products. Before we get started, I'll just tell you guys a little bit about Franklin. We were founded in 2019 and headquartered in San Jose, California. We have a warehouse up in Brampton, Ontario. We have about 400 employees. 60% are engaged in research and development. We focus on all-in-home energy management with a focus on energy independence. So basically having enough solar battery to survive off-grid if need be, or just to be completely independent of the grid. We are financially backed by Sequoia Capital, and we have a Series B financing done by Particle Future. We're in the top five in the US residential market with over 3,200 certified installers. We get our battery cells from cattle using their utility grade cattle cells. So we believe in quality, so that's why we're a little more expensive, but you do get what you pay for. Um, Moving on, we're just kind of showing off that we have been growing in the US market and we're up in the top four. So aPower S is part of the aPower 2 portfolio. We also have released our aHub, which I'll get into more later. And then it also works with our aGate, which is our controller or microgrid interconnect device. So what is the problem that we're trying to solve for? So rates are changing. We're seeing the release of time of use rates. So you have a rate differential during different times of the day. And what this brings out is more expensive power. So a battery can store your cheap electricity and it allows you to utilize it during the more expensive times of day. Customers are further electrifying their homes by adding EVs. They're usually adding electrical appliances, electric dryer, heat pump water heaters, heat pump HVACs. So all these are just going to drive up your electricity costs. So this is what makes solar and storage a more cost-effective solution over your lifetime costs of electricity. And also climate change. We're seeing a lot more frequent outages. In California, sometimes if they have a high wind event, they'll actually shut off the power. And so having a battery and solar allows you to be independent of the grid and keep working from home. So another challenge that we're trying to solve for installers is that they have high installation costs. So a lot of boxes on the wall, different components from different manufacturers. So we are trying to minimize components by essentially having everything all under one brand name, one warranty, and one 1-800 number to call at the end of the day if you ever encountered a problem. So with the aPower S, we now introduce direct PV connection into the battery. So the architecture that we chose is a all-in-one. So that means you have your battery cells, the inverter, and the PV inverter in one container or in one battery. So this all-in-one architecture, when you have multiple batteries, actually prevents a single point of failure. So with a hybrid inverter, you may have multiple battery cells, but you only have one main inverter that handles your conversion for your batteries, handles the conversion for your solar, and also is your intertie to the grid. Whereas with all-in-one architecture, if one battery were to fail, the other batteries can keep on working, even though there might be like a critical fault in one of the battery components. So this is, I think in my mind, this is a better architecture because you have multiple redundancy and also allows you to grow without having to worry about installing another battery cell within a certain time frame. So this gives you backwards compatibility, gives you expandability, um, and then also it's streamlined maintenance support. So if you have a problem, we can RMA it out, swap it out, and you're back up and running for your customers. So what comes with aPower S? So you get 4 MPPTs allowing up to 20 kilowatts of DC per aPower S. These MPPTs allow for a voltage range of 60 to 600 and up to 15 amps. If you go over the 15 amps, we can actually throttle it down to 15 amps. So if you have a more higher amperage panel, you might see some clipping, but there are a lot of panels out there that operate in the 12 amp range, and you just put them in series and get up to the higher voltages. You get 15 kilowatt hours of fully usable capacity, 100% depth of discharge. We actually put 16.1 kilowatt hours inside of every one of our batteries. So this allows us to give you a 15-year warranty, 60 megawatt hours of throughput, and then also allows us with a higher charge rate and also a higher discharge rate. The larger the battery it is, you're usually limited by the C rate. So having a higher capacity allows us to have that C rate with a 15-year warranty, but also make it more usable to the homeowner, providing whole home backup with a single battery. We can operate on 120, 240 split phase and 120, 208 single phase voltages. So multifamily, if you might have um, a house with like an open delta, so you got A and B phase, you can actually utilize our battery with an N phase 120, 208 system and still have backup power. So going more into it, the aPower S still enjoys the same 15-minute commissioning time as our aPower 2. It includes fault detection between the battery and PV. We pair with Tigo as well as AP systems, and we're about to launch our own Franklin RSD, rapid shutdown device. So you guys will see some more announcements about that later this year. These are some pictures of aPower S out in the field. You can see you got a wide open wiring compartment. We don't have any cooling fans, so that's less components that could fail. We also have a outer shell, so that's something you can take off during installation, making the aPower S lighter to install. We also include a dolly. We have a dolly that you guys could rent or purchase, and it will lift it up and make it easier for installation. If anyone ever has questions, you can definitely put any questions inside the chat. Stephanie will be able to let me know that a question came in, and we can actually answer it live here on this webinar.
No
On
questions
this
yet.
pic, no questions yet? All right. Um, so on this picture, you can see like you have two spots, one on each side to bring in your wiring. DC PV wiring comes in on the right side, and then your AC wiring on the left side. But I'll go into more installation specific slides here in a moment. So the wiring access. So we have two locations that you can bring in your AC wiring, your two hots, neutral and ground. Um, you can see like we have an AC in out and an AC jumper. Essentially, you can utilize either one. You would not use both. So if somehow you might have broke the lever action on one of them, you can always just bring it down to the other one. So it's like a little extra redundancy. We use a CAN 2.0 communication method. So you have a CAN wire between our aGate and the aPower S. And then the matching terminal, this is what closes out the CAN communication. So if you have multiple batteries, you just remove that matching terminal on all the batteries except for the last one to close out the loop. And then for the DC side, you can see we have 4 strings, PV positive, PV negative. And we also have a location to wire up AC power to your rapid shutdown transmitter. So you will still require a power supply that would allow the conversion of 120 to 40 volt AC into the 12 or 24 volts transmitter. So these are the two products that we are compatible with for rapid shutdown, AP Smart and Tigo. So with the aPower S, we still have our aGate modules. So that's like your smart circuit module, generator module, and those allow you to hook up any sort of smart loads, heavy loads, and then you also have our generator module that allows you to hook up a portable and or a standby generator. So you can integrate all that, and that generator will be able to charge up your aPower system. Also have another example. We can also send out sample SLDs. Just send an email out to engineering@FranklinWH to request some of these sample SLDs. For larger power situations, let's say 200 amp service, you have like 35 kilowatts of DC solar that you want to hook up. At that point, I would recommend installing two of our aPower S's, and then you just land all your strings on the two aPower S's, and we'll do all the charging conversion all inside of our system without having to use microinverters or a string inverter. And if you've got 20 kilowatts or less, then but you still want to add more power and capacity, then you can still pair it with an aPower too. If you have a different situation where you might already have an existing solar, Enphase, SolarEdge, Tesla, but you want to add on storage and also add on more power, more solar power, you can still do a mix and match with us. You can do an aPower S to add on that extra solar, and you can still AC couple your microinverters or your string inverter. And the economics actually get better too. So with two batteries, you got 30 kilowatt hours. And since you have the SN2, you get 11.5 kilowatts continuous output with solar. And you add on the aPower 2, you got your 30 kilowatt hours, giving you 21.5 kilowatts of continuous power. We still have surge power. We have 185 amps of LRA. So a single battery can start a 5-ton air conditioning system. So you with that in mind, you can see that like our competitive price per kilowatt hour over the protected lifetime of the battery, which is 15 years, actually decreases the lifetime cost of our system. Because with that protected cost, anytime during that 15 years, if anything goes wrong, call up Franklin and we will essentially make sure the customer is problems are solved. We'll essentially RMA, part replacement, anything that will get the system back up and running fully operational. And then with that longer warranty, that means 60 megawatt hours of throughput. So these are protected megawatt hours of throughput, all warranted. You get more bill savings because every time you charge and discharge, depending upon the rate differential from charging up from solar for free, or if you're on a really nice like low nights TOU plan where you can charge up for 2 cents, but your daytime rate's like 40 cents. Then this is when the savings really get large. So I'm actually very happy that I live here in Houston because we have a free nights and weekends program. So I still have three batteries, 12 kilowatts of solar, but from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., I can actually charge up for free. During the daytime, it's about 24 cents a kilowatt hour. But with the solar, keeping my batteries topped off, um, I can essentially ride out the day with the air conditioner running down, a little bit cooler since it is like really hot down here. We're hitting triple digits, 101, so it's about 37 degrees Celsius. So the air conditioner is just running constantly. But we don't fret, we don't worry about the power bill anymore. My average bill is probably about $10 a month. Part of the quality aspect of our battery is that we don't include any cooling fans. We don't need it. We designed the heatsink to be oversized. That way, even during a 45 degrees Celsius day, which you probably would only encounter that in a closed-off garage in the middle of the summer. we can still operate at full power, charge and discharge. So this is like one less movable part that could essentially fail on you. We have a wide operating temperature, so great for cold weather, great for hot weather. We have a 440 watt built-in heating blanket wrapped around both rows of battery cells so that we can operate even during some of the coldest winters. Now, if it gets like extremely cold, I would still recommend a indoor installation, especially if you're worried about power consumption, since that heater is a resistive heater. And if it's left out in the wind and the cold, it's gonna wear down the heat. It's gonna pull away a lot of the heat, so it's gonna be operating that heating blanket more often. So protecting it from the extreme environments is better for long-term operation, but the extreme cold and extreme heat, I haven't seen it over the last 3 years, it impacting the state of health long term. 15-minute commissioning time. So once you connect to the battery, you tell it how many batteries are being paired. You enter in the home address, put in how much solar, what size of your OCPD, feeding the aGate, any sort of utility plan incentives, and then the homeowner's email address, and then bind. At that point, we automatically send an email to the homeowner notifying them that they can create their account and they can log in and see their system. I've seen installers get this done in 10 minutes. So we try to keep that seamless and short as possible. We also do over-the-air software updates in the background. So even if it's been in a warehouse for 6 months, it probably has a couple updates it's got to do, but it's starting those updates as soon as you connect it to Wi-Fi. And so it's not going to slow you down or stop you from commissioning. We also include a colorful RGB light strip on the front. I actually keep mine on rainbow colors. So whenever it's fully charged, you can kind of see like this beautiful rainbow coming down. And I recently added a bunch of landscape lighting around like my front and backyard of the house. So I got them all kind of synced up. So I got rainbow in the front, rainbow in the back. So I got the colorful house on the cul-de-sac. We also are designed to integrate easily with virtual power plant programs. So I will actually show a picture of how many programs that we've integrated across the states. We are working with some utilities in Canada to try to have them develop a program. So those are still in the works. But with 15 years of warranty, high power output, and high capacity, um, these batteries are to capitalize on those dispatch events and earn the customer way more money. Because sometimes they may have like a program where they'll give you $100 per kilowatt of discharge over the dispatch season. So that means if it's a 2 or 3 hour dispatch period, you might have an average kilowatt over that 3 hours of like 4 or 5. So that could be $500 that the customer can earn during that season. Some programs are more juicy than others, so depending upon the hydro utility, we'll see what that comes out to and what type of incentives that they're going to throw at your citizens. So these are all the programs that we are currently in. There's actually one that I'm actually working on currently, Entergy Louisiana, so that covers everything outside of New Orleans. Um, and we just got the agreement signed a week ago, and we'll be able to launch by August 10th. So once a utility says, "Hey, we're on board. We want to offer this incentive to our ratepayers," we can integrate those pretty quick. Once a program is launched in Canada, the program will show up underneath the virtual power plant tab for the homeowners app. Essentially, they'll throw in their utility ID or their meter ID, which they can get from their power bill, then like their normal name, number, address, and then they'll hit submit. The utility will review it, so it'll show up as pending for a day or two, and then once the utility accepts, then they'll see that, hey, you've been accepted. Wait for the next event to happen, and then the customer will see a notification, typically about a day ahead of time, that, hey, you're going to have an event. It's going to be 3 hours. We're going to give you this much. and you can actually set the reserve SOC or how much power you want to give for that event. Obviously, the more you give, the more money you make. But if you know there's a storm coming, that is not quite at the level that it would cause our storm protection to automatically trigger, but it's kind of right there where you're like, hey, like typically these things will give me a power outage. You can actually say, I want to opt out, and you can actually save that power for yourself instead of participating in the event for that day. So where all this happens is in our aGate. So our aGate has a energy management system. We call it the EMS. So this is the brains. So um, this controls uh, where you got your grid power, generator power, solar, and you can land your batteries and smart circuits all inside of this box. And we have CTs on all of it. So we measure the voltage, we measure the current. And so this is how we do PCS, or power control system. Um, so it depends upon the use case. Under 200 amps, one aGate. If it's a 400 amp service, that's when I would be looking at using a second aGate. So you have two separate systems. So it would have its own battery and solar, and so it treat them like two separate systems. We are NEC 2023 PCS certified with a 280 amp bus bar inside of our gateway. We are also certified under CSA number 19 for service entrance rated. But depending upon your AHJ, you may still need to get a Eaton disconnect, depending upon what they think of that certification. Uh, our system, since it's more firmware based than hardware, we are able to do backwards compatibility. So this aPower S is still compatible on systems that installed our aPower X from 4 years ago. So if you have any existing Franklin customers, or the customer is like, hey, if I buy this Franklin system for the first time and I get a bonus or something like that in the future, and I want to buy a second battery, but they have the aPower S3 or something like that in 5 years, um, will I have to replace my entire system? And you can tell them no. We keep reverse compatibility for a long time. So a customer buying a single battery system now can feel confident that like it's going to be a good investment, and they can always add to it in the future, without having to replace and scrap everything. So using the aGates and the aPower S, you can do whole home backup, you can do partial home backup. We have a split CT kit, so I've been seeing a lot of partial home backups over in the west coast of Canada, especially near um, like Vancouver and Vancouver Island. They'll use our split CT kits to monitor the loads that are left upstream of the aGate, and then it'll have a protected loads panel downstream. So it's a good case. Sometimes the homeowner's like, I just want to make sure these loads that are on my house don't get backed up, because I want to ensure that only the loads I really want are using the power. And they just didn't want to get the smart circuits, or it was more cost effective for them to just leave those loads up there. Installing the APRS. We try to keep it easy. So we have 8 captive screws that opens up the wiring compartment. Once you open it up, it exposes our AC wiring on the left side and the PV wiring on the right side. Bring it in your number 6 wire on a 60 amp breaker into our AC jumper in. You also have either a Cat 5 or Cat 6 cable coming from the aGate to the first battery. And then if you have multiple batteries, then that's when you cascade and add another jumper from the first battery to the second battery, and so on. And then if you have multiple batteries, just be mindful of the matching terminal. And then for the PV wiring, if you have a ground mount, typically you don't have to use a rapid shutdown, but I would still recommend maybe having some sort of fuse disconnect. That way you can isolate if you ever need be. We do provide a power source for your RSD transmitter of choice. Just be mindful that it is a 120 or 240 volts AC output, so you need a power supply, usually about $10, $15. This is the CAN communication. If you were to utilize our aHub, I haven't really talked much about the aHub, but I do have a section on the aHub later on. The aHub is kind of like our accessories in a box. So this gives you what we used to have is an AP box for extra solar or solar that's oversized. So this allows you to utilize that. You can also use these as smart circuits and also on the number 4 slot, use it as a generator module. So instead of buying one or two modules, you can actually get the aHub and probably a more cost-efficient choice than partialing out the other two accessories. So depending upon your situation, if you need multiple functionalities, the aHub would probably be your optimal choice. So this is the number 6 wire and CAN wire being demonstrated coming in through conduit, and then the PV wire on the other side. So the aPower S brings you a very good value by giving you 20 kilowatts of DC power. Um, a question that may come up is like, your charge rate is only 8 kilowatts and your AC output is 11.5 kilowatts. So yes, we do have a little bit of oversizing, but not a lot. So when you are allowed to export to the grid and also you're near empty, you can utilize 8 kilowatts directly charging to your batteries and 11.5 going out if you are at that peak solar period. So you can actually utilize a lot of that power just from your solar system. Uh, the Power S is designed to work with our aPower 2 and aPower X, and also any of our accessories like the aHub. And eventually, when the meter collar is approved, you'll be able to utilize the aPower S and the Mac and the meter collar all by itself, which will then really simplify the wiring. 15-year warranty, 60 megawatt hours of throughput. So you get a long lifetime of protection from the company. The aPower 2 and the aPower S are AC coupled. So the aPower 2 gives you extra capacity and extra power. Uh, the system is basically powerful enough computer inside of it that also allows for future firmware updates for many years, and which allows us to launch VPP programs and respond to grid signals. And then since we use LFP from cattle, you you're just gonna know that the batteries are gonna be the least worry, well, the least worry that you're ever gonna have. Our current RMA rate is less than 0.3%. So I've been working at the company for 3.5 years, and it's like very rare that I see a failure of our battery. So that's why I have 3 batteries in my own house because I feel confident in our own product. All right, so now for a deeper dive on the aHub, the accessories in a box. So it was traditionally meant as like a ability to give our aGate accessories when you're using the meter collar. But within a month of us launching the aHub, we also ensured that you can utilize multiple aHubs with our aGate. So you just keep it CAN wired in between. So if you have multiple batteries, then you just add the CAN wire over to the aHubs and wire those up in series. And then so the aHub will also have a matching terminal. So you want to make sure you remove all those as well because they're part of the CAN loop. So the aHub gives you smart circuits, gives you the ability to add extra PV, AC coupled PV circuits, and also on the number 4 slot, it can be used as a smart circuit, extra solar, and also as a generator module. So we provide dry contact and voltage sense out of the aHub. So we can provide all of that for you guys. As you can see, generator V to L, portable generators through a NEMA 50 plug, any sort of AC coupled solar, and this all works with either our aPower 2, aPower X, or aPower S. This also works for long distance solar. So let's say you got the house with a meter on it, but you got a barn that you're trying to power from here, but the AC is located on the barn. So you can actually, instead of use the CAN communication, If you're just using the aHub for that AC coupled solar, we also have a ability to do RS45, which is two small wires. So make sure it's like number 16 and you run that if you already have conduit in place, or you could run like another small conduit and run those two wires out there to the barn. That way we have the ability to monitor, essentially measure the current and also relay it if you're ever off grid and we need to control that AC coupled solar. This is kind of what it looks like. We allow up to 4 two-pole circuits or 8 single-pole circuits. Traditionally, if you're going to be using a device like this, I would use it for your AC coupled solar, large loads like a heat pump, hot water maker, hot tub, and also for a ability to add a generator using this instead of our generator module. So essentially it's got built-in CTs and built-in relays. So that's how we can monitor and essentially provide that functionality. And then this is kind of showing that, yep, multi-source enabled for PV generators, V to L portable generators. And then also this integrates. So if you have our smart circuit module and multiple aHubs up to 4, these will all show up under the customer's smart circuit. So they can set like functionality times, SOC settings. So if you're ever off grid, you hit like 60% and you're like, you know what? I no longer need this load. Let me just have that the system automatically turn that off. That way, if I have a longer outage than anticipated, the system will automatically protect you without you having to wake up in the middle of the night, look at your SOC, and worry that you're not going to make it all the way through, especially if you have other devices in your house that need to run, like a fridge, freezer, or any sort of medical equipment. Then the system will automatically take care of that for you. Um, we we like to rave about our reliability. So, I have two aPower 2 betas when they first came out, and the one of the first 10 aPower S units off the factory floor. I haven't had any problems with mine. And we haven't been seeing a lot of problems with the current fleet coming out. Um, it's I just like that we have high quality components inside of our battery, and it's it's been a lifesaver for, ensuring we don't get a lot of calls coming to service and stuff. So, um, Charge Solar, also I'm sure appreciates that as well. Not selling junk. So, that's why it feels great to be part of this company. Great for large solar retrofits. So using the aPower 2, aPower S, like I said, you can mix and match AC coupled with DC coupled. And then with that long distance, like the question goes in, how do I control this device when I already got conduit in there? That's when you can use RS45. You got the long distance, you can bring the aHub out there. That way you can have that control and measurement. So reaching towards the end, if there's any information questions, we have your Franklin training portal and also our Docebo University. So we try to keep that updated every few weeks of new material, new updates to installation guides. So um, there's a lot of people that are probably guilty of this, but you may have like an installation manual from a year and a half ago, saved it as a PDF on your desktop, and you're always looking at that instead of check in for the latest documentation on our website. So I like to recommend that if you have those old PDFs, do everyone a favor and delete those and just be sure to go to our website and get and look at the latest documentation. Because sometimes we do put important notes or important changes at giving you more functionality, maybe a higher amperage rating on some certain breaker slots. Very useful to check for the latest documentation off of our website as a source of truth. But are there any questions?
I did not see any questions come through the Q&A. Oh, We have one from Craig. What temperature does the heating blanket kick in at?
Yeah, the heating blanket kicks in at around 10 degrees Celsius.
Wonderful. Is the aHub available from Charge Solar? I can answer that. We haven't placed a PO for any yet, but we can order them in. I've already looked into it, so you can reach out to your sales rep for the price, and the up-to-date lead time on that.
Maybe we'll just give it one more moment here. Oh, I see another one.
Yeah, so this is from Greg at Peace Energy. Came in late, so might have missed it, but if you have you suggested any wall layouts?
Yeah, we do have some on. Send an email to engineering@FranklinWH and we can provide that to you.
Great. You can CC me on that too, Greg. Anyone else for any questions for the, oh,
We can also provide sample SLDs as well. That way we can try to capture as many of those scenarios that you may encounter.
so Craig asked, in the Ontario market, can we control the export kilowatt due to the limits of 10 kilowatts? So that's a question
Yeah,
for you.
we do have that innate functionality during system parameters, step 4 of our commissioning. You can put a site export limit, and then you can set that for 10. You can also do a PCS permanent D rate of the battery inverter. So if you want to do 2 batteries, you can set that to 5 kilowatts each. I prefer the site export, that way I can keep my backup power at full power.
And Craig, we will be distributing the recording of the presentation as well.
Lovely. Last call for questions. Get them in there if they're burning.
I think that's it.
I think that's it. All right. Well, thank you so much, David. Always a pleasure having you on to present.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Steph said, we will distribute the webinar recording. I will email that out by the end of today. It'll also be added to our YouTube channel, so you can check that out. And yeah, that concludes today's session. Thanks
Thank you,
again,
everyone.
David. Thanks, Steph.
Thanks,
Thank you, Amber. Thank you,
David. Nice to
Stephanie.
see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Everybody have a great rest of your day.